Hey, my name's Rob Noy, and you're listening to the Cross-Axe Method podcast. This is where our team and I talk everything health, including training, nutrition, and many other topics. So kick back, grab a coffee, and enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Tuesday. You're tuning in to the Cross-Axe Method podcast once again, and we're up to episode 45. I'm here again with Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Excellent.
That's good. I tried to change up my spiel.
I tried to change my response.
Love it. We're just keeping you guys on your toes.
Yep.
Welcome to the podcast today, guys. We're going to chat a little bit about returning to the gym after some time away, and this has been a recent request from some members, so we're keen to chat about it. So I guess as a bit of an intro to the conversation, often we find ourselves in a situation where before we know it, maybe a week or 2 weeks or sometimes more has passed because we've caught up with whether it's work or we've been sick or we've been away on holidays for whatever reason, we've been off from the gym. And the common question that arises when we see people returning is around how they should scale a class or how they should tackle their, I guess, getting back into the swing of it things. You know, a lot of the questions are whether they should jump on a machine on their own or do they do class or at what intensity should they work out. So we're keen to dig a little bit into that.
Cool.
So starting a little bit with, I guess as well, firstly, we will always offer scaling options too. So we're going to chat a little bit around the recommendations from coaches versus listening to your own body and understanding what it was that you did in your time away. So how much time off is considered relevant in this conversation, I guess? Are we talking a day or are we talking a week? What's it look like? And how relative is the return strategy to how many days we were training before we took the break? So someone might have trained...
I'm like,
that makes so much sense.
I feel like you've
in my
asked
head.
about 15 questions already, and I'm like...
Okay, let me start again.
Just hit me with like one question at a time.
Well, so we're comparing people who are obviously training at different volumes in a week. So we're going to look at someone who maybe has trained 6 days a week and did extras versus someone who might have just come into the gym 2 or 3 times. Yep. How relative is that in this conversation in terms of recommending how they get started again?
Very.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Look, there's so much in this that it's going to be very individualized. So, you know, we've spoken a little bit before about training age. I don't know if that was with you, Leah, but training age is kind of this thing where we have an understanding of how much training you have been doing for your life. Mm-hmm. So someone comes into the gym and, you know, they weren't too sporty at high school. They didn't do much. Maybe they did some PE, but didn't really like it. And then they went to university, got into their career, and found themselves like, oh shit, I need to do something about my health. And then they've stumbled into CrossFit. Here they are, and they've started training. And they've been with us for 6 months. Essentially, they've got a training age of 6 months. Now they might be 35 years old, and then on the flip side. Let's say we've got an NRL football player or, you know, very high level rugby or any sort of sport that they've been playing since they were 10 years old or younger. And then they've gone all the way through into their adulthood training and playing their sport. And they've retired and they've had a few years off and had some kids and whatever else. And they're 35 as well. And they come into the gym and they start, their training age is going to be, you know, 20 years or however long they've been playing football for and training consistently, plus the 6 months that they've started with. So people with a training age like that are going to be able to handle a quicker return to their baseline, which is going to be higher than what the person that's done nothing for their entire adult life has, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so what happens is when you're in your development years, especially in your teens into your early 20s, you kind of create a baseline for yourself. So let's say, for example, you're the kind of athlete that has some time off and you say, look, every time I have a break, it's really, really hard for me to get my strength back. And 9 times out of 10, when we dig a little bit deeper with that athlete or person, and we say, well, what did you do in your formative years when you were in your teens and early 20s? And more than likely, if they were active, it's like, oh yeah, man, I was into triathlons and running, or I was a swimmer, or I was really into endurance events. And we say, well, how do your lungs feel when you come back to training? No, they're pretty good. It's just my strength. And then on the flip side of that, someone that really regains their strength quite quickly after having some break, and we talk to them and they say, oh yeah, I lifted weights all of my teen years. I didn't do any endurance stuff. So in those formative years, we create almost like this foundational base for our body to return to. And if that time was spent lifting weights, then our strength comes back quite quickly. If that time was spent in the endurance realm, then our aerobic capacity and endurance generally comes back a lot quicker. So again, very individualized depending on what you did during those years, if you did anything at all during those years, and I guess what your training age is as well. So lots of different things are going to affect your return and how you return in terms of performance, I guess that is. And then in terms of feel, recovery, soreness, all of those other things, then that's going to depend on frequency of training, volume you've been doing, how long you've had away, all of those things, which I think we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we are. And I'm going to make it much easier to understand.
Excellent. Cool.
So, yeah, let's talk about that and the differing factors to consider on how you spent your time off. So do our recommendations change based on whether you were drinking booze for the whole week or whether you were sick in bed or whether you had a really relaxing time away? How does that work in with coming back for some sessions in terms of intensity and volume?
Yeah, okay. So if you were drinking piss all week, which is a pretty common scenario, or you were sick all week, we're probably going to approach that pretty similar.
Yep.
Those two things, because alcohol affects your recovery and so does being sick.
Yep.
So, your immune system's not overworking essentially. So it's being compromised and challenged when you're sick. And when we come back to working out, that puts pressure on that as well. And alcohol does the same thing. It really hampers your recovery and affects your sleep and your performance and all of those things. So we're going to just come back into it very steadily, I guess is the word, and come back into the classes and just speak to the coaches, because we're going to know you on an individual level and we're going to be able to address all those things I mentioned before. Where were you at before you left?
Yeah.
And where are you at now? And this is going to dictate what we ask you to do in the class.
Yeah.
So the example I just gave you before, Leah, when we were talking, is someone say like Luke McKnight. Luke's haven't cleared this with him, but I'm sure he's happy for me to talk about him.
I'm sure.
But say we get someone like Luke that comes in and he's been away for a couple of weeks and he's like, yep, I've just been away sinking piss and having a good time. Like, cool. We're doing Murph today. And one of the hardest things as a coach is going to be able to hold back an athlete like that and say, mate, today's not the day. You're going to give yourself rhabdo. So if you're coming back into that, we'd immediately say for someone like Luke, let's do 50% volume today. So we're not too worried about the run. That's going to hurt a little bit, but in terms of recovery or soreness or anything like that, running 2 miles for someone like that's probably not a big deal on any day of the week. But where the issue is going to come in is with the volume of the pull-up, push-up and squats. So we might say, hey, look, let's just drop the volume and break it into rounds of Cindy, and we're going to do only 10 rounds of that, and then you're on your way. Now, if we took someone that's not as athletically proficient as Luke, and they're a beginner CrossFitter and have a short training age, and we gave them 50% Murph with a mile on each end of their run, that might be an upscale from a normal day.
Yeah.
So for that person, we might say, look, all we're going to do today is we're going to bring that run back to 400 meters. And you're going to do a 400-meter run on each end of the workout. And then in between, you're going to do 5, 10, 15, whatever it is, pull-up, push-up, squat. And then we might say between each round, you're going to do a 100-meter run, and we're going to do 5 rounds of that. So just breaking up the volume, breaking up the actual workload itself. So even though it's broken with the pull-up, push-up, squat, we then, instead of going straight back into the pull-up again, we do another run, or maybe even a row or a bike or something like that, just to spread it out so the athlete still feels like they're moving for the entire time. We're still getting that aerobic training, but we're not necessarily building in, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, or 300 squats, or even 50% of that. We might be looking at total volume of 25% of the total. So you might only end up doing 25 pull-ups and 75 push-ups and 100 squats, or something like that, whatever the numbers
Quick
are.
math.
I think I got those math. No, I definitely got those wrong.
Yeah,
I think I got
wrong.
the pull-ups right. But
That's okay.
it might be 25, 50,
mean.
75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, and then also picking things that are not going to cause DOMS or delayed onset of muscle soreness. So things like biking and that load where we haven't got the downward phase, that eccentric load, even skiing, they really help us prevent the soreness that you're going to get from being away.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. So are you, is it inevitable that you will get sore?
Oh,
and
definitely.
you just try and reduce that?
Yeah, you want to get
Yeah.
sore. You don't want to get sore. You're going to get sore,
Yeah.
but we don't want to make it debilitating.
Yeah. Right. Makes sense.
Muscle soreness is not the end of the world. It means we've damaged the muscle tissue that needs to be repaired. That's fine, but it shouldn't be at a point where it's debilitating.
Yeah,
and
you can't walk down the
You
stairs.
can't walk down the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. Got it.
And
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there, and we try and give you that advice every time we do GHC sit-ups as well. It's
That's
a
right.
common, cause of severe soreness, and still a lot of people choose not to maybe take our advice on that sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. And let's just chat about that now. So,
Sure.
As coaches, we make recommendations. At what point would we ever tell somebody or ask somebody to stop?
When it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we feel like they're potentially putting themselves at harm, I guess. It's really quite difficult because it's we're challenging people's egos a little bit.
Yeah.
And most of the time people just want to do their best and try really hard, and the sort of what do you call it, oxymoron or whatever it is that we're asking people to do that every single day. We want you to push hard, go hard, and then there's also a point where we're like, no, stop, that's too much.
Yeah.
So don't, no, don't. But we always try and take that approach here of let's try and get the right dose for you, and the right scaling. So we're not asking you to overreach or overtrain. More often than not, we're asking people to take it back, as you know, and be a little bit smarter with their training versus trying to burn the house down and survive through a hero workout, even if they've had 3 weeks off.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess it's going to differ based on what was happening with your time off, but can they still train? The answer is yes, they should be, but obviously that will change a little bit depending on what you've got going on. So what's your perspective there on how you view training and how they should view their training when they're off?
Okay, so how I view training is I still train basically all the time. And if I'm camping on a beach, I take a sandbag with me and I just do, if it's a 10-minute workout, some squats and running and something like that, it's not only for my physical health, it's also for my mental health as well.
Yeah.
And so I try and do something every day, and even if it's just go for a run, which is something I don't do a lot of in training. But if it's like, if all I've got is my pair of shoes, then all I do is go for a run. Or, there's so many options, push-ups, sit-ups, all of those things.
Yeah.
So I just try and use my time away as a bit of a deload, essentially. But it really depends also on where I am, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If I'm just having a week off and I'm at home or whatever, nothing changes. Because I've fortunately got a pretty good setup at home, and I can do most things with a barbell and all that sort of stuff. But if I'm traveling, then chuck in a skip and rope or whatever.
And we spoke about that a little bit around Christmas time and that break too. So feel free to jump back onto that podcast if you missed that one.
Or even search. I always search out local CrossFit gyms no matter where I'm at, and it's a fun experience going into new places and training. So I quite enjoy that, but I know that's probably not everyone's cup of tea. But I guess it. It really depends where you sit with it all, and whether you actually really enjoy training, which I do, obviously, or if it's some people, it's a bit of a grind. It's a tough thing to do, and it's not enjoyable. So when they're on holiday, it might be the last thing that they want to do. But I'd just say, look, really, the more active you stay on training, the quicker your return's going to be, and it's pretty straightforward like that.
Yep. And so what would your advice be to people who just have a lot of life and work busy commitments? What should they try and squeeze in if they can't make a class?
Do you mean just in general, or if they're having time out?
Yeah, work's super busy, can't make a class. Should they just take a walk? Is that enough, or is that not enough?
The first thing I'd do is look at how much time you're spending on social media.
Yeah, great.
And then decide if you've got enough time to exercise or not. Because, I'll be the first to admit it. It's like, hey, I'm super busy, I'm flat out, and then you really dig it. You go, oh, hang on, shit. My social media's been open for 2 hours a day. If I can't get my exercise done 2 hours a day, there's something wrong. Like we let these moments flick by just looking at the screen. So the way you can to try and give some actual beneficial advice here, I guess, is plan your day. If you've got something planned and a commitment made, then generally you'll stick to it. If you go, I might go to the gym and it's 4:00 in the afternoon and you were thinking about hitting the 4:15 session, and if you just got off your ass and went to the gym, you'd make it, versus you sit down and you go, oh, yeah, I'll go to the gym, and then you open Instagram and then, oh, shit, it's 12 past. I'm not going to make it now, bugger. I won't worry about it today. So if you've got that plan and that commitment to yourself, you'll generally make it. I've had this conversation with my brother probably, 5 to 10 years ago. And he's like, mate, I'm so busy. I'm at work at this time. I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm trying to really make a go of my career. And I'm like, mate, you're going to be busy for the rest of your life. But if you don't make time now to start exercising, you're going to need to make time later to be sick and have time off and not be as productive as you could be. And unfortunately, 10 years later, he still hasn't changed. But, the work's still there. And he's been promoted through all these positions, which is amazing. But at some point, that's going to become unimportant to you, more than likely.
Yeah.
And you're going to have family or other commitments that are more important. And if you're not healthy and you can't take care of them, then that's when it becomes an issue. So if it's a matter of priorities, look, I understand that at certain points in your life, if you're really wanting to be successful and get ahead, you got to jump on that grindstone and you've got to go for it. I had times where we were building this gym, whether I was in the old fire station or when we transitioned to here, and basically I had time for nothing. I would get up in the morning, coach sessions, go to work with the fireys, and then I'd be back in here until midnight drilling holes in the roof, and that happens in everyone's field at some point. Maybe it's building a tech project or doing whatever you're doing. I get it, fully understand that. But at some point, you've got to put everything down and look after yourself and make that plan to train. And even if you go, well, I've only got 20 minutes a day, then jump on the website, have a look at the home workout, which we've started putting back in again, and do that. Like that, do it with what you've got at home. Do it in your garage. If you got no creativity, just do 100 burpees as fast as you can. Like if you just did that, that's solid. It's a tough couple of minutes.
Yeah. How long does it take you?
I don't know.
I think one of our rookies puts us all to shame.
I've always done 150. Oh. Yeah, I've never really stopped at 100.
Well, la-di-da.
No, but I mean, like, as the kind of benchmark.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's, yeah. I think my best is like 52 in 2 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I might test that. We had a little rookie, Hugh, who
Yep.
did, I think, 50 burpees in under 2 minutes. How many did you just say?
52 in
Fif-
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Oh, I might put you guys neck and neck.
I'm not going against you. I've seen him do burpees. He's
Yeah,
fast.
he's very springy.
And that was a younger me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He takes the cake.
he
so
can have that one.
we sort of touched on it, but just to be clear, what are the risks involved if you do return after some time off and you hit it at full intensity?
Yeah, you can really put yourself in hospital,
Yep.
especially if you've got some capacity to train. So, you know, if you've been doing a fair bit of volume and your body's used to that, and you take 2 weeks off doing absolutely nothing, and then you come back and do something like Cindy, 5, 10, 15 pull-up, push-up, squat. You do that for 20 minutes and you punch out 25 rounds of that in 20 minutes. Good luck walking the next day. You know, like, you're going to be in a real lot of pain and potentially give yourself rhabdo. So some big issues there if you're not wise about coming back into it.
Yeah, I think it is really important. Be super wise. So again, just to recap a little bit, we do recommend that you come in and you jump into the class, and we'll the coaches will help you out with how to navigate that. Yeah,
and even, like, I guess we kind of talked about scaling volume, but the other thing we do is scale load. So just dropping that load back, and we can even scale intensity as well, and just like, hey, let's just move through this workout, get the air moving through the lungs again, and getting the feel for it, and then and then slowly but surely, you know, build back into it over a number of weeks, if not months. So, you know, you're not going to just go from flat out to nothing back to where you were. Just take your time to build it up, and that might look like, if you used to do 6 sessions a week, you might do just come in and do 3 the first week, and then 4 the next week, and then 5 the next week, and then finally you're back at 6, and then you increase your intensity, and then from there, for one of those days a week, you do a double session, and then slowly build back up to wherever you were at beforehand.
Yeah, don't be afraid to always just speak with a coach when you're returning. We'll always be able to help guide you with that.
Yeah, that's probably the best bit of advice. Just ask, stick your hand up. Make sure you do ask, because, you know, if you have had time away and, you know, maybe you normally come to the 5:15 a.m. session and you come in at 4:15 p.m. and it's a different coach and they haven't seen you, but they just think, oh, you know, maybe this person's been here and I haven't seen them, or vice versa, and we just crack on as normal, and just because we haven't realised that you've been away, you know, we could put you into the workout and expect that you would do the workout as prescribed or whatever the standard is, and not really know that you've been away, and it could put you in a potential place of harming yourself. So just make sure you let us know that, hey, look, I've had a couple of weeks off. I'm just going to take it steady. And then we'll give you advice surrounding that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this sort of sparks my memory of there have been a few people recently who maybe haven't had the time off, but they've got an injury or something's happened.
Oh, yeah.
And they might want to change the workout or change some of the movements. Do you recommend that they stick to the class, talk to the coach, and we will recommend some replacement movements? Or perhaps that workout is all focused on whatever it is that's hurting them. Does the workout then become redundant for them on that day?
No, I think unless you know what you're going to do, always come and speak to the coaches. We've got years of ideas and different experiences that we can help you with.
Yep.
And most, if not all of the time, there's some good workarounds. And that also leads to maybe just reaching out and booking in some time where we can sit down with you and give you some goals to mentally help you get through an injury period. So let's say, for example, you do a shoulder or a wrist or an arm or something like that, and it's like, okay, let's, depending, you know, if you needed surgery, or there's a lot of ifs and buts here, but, you know, we might say, well, let's focus on your squat strength and lunges, and we might just, the goal might be absolutely beneficial to nothing but your mental health. It might be, hey, let's try and see how fast we can get our 400-meter walking lunge time down to, or, just give you something to focus on to take the pressure off feeling like you're not doing the class or whatever. Yeah,
love that.
But there's always something to work around.
Yeah, always. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Very good. So I guess to serve as a recap to people, do you want to sort of just, in a nutshell, what we just spoke about, how do they return? We were just talking about this, so you're laughing because it's not generalised.
No, that's right. So, it really depends. Come and speak to a coach. Come back in.
Love it.
When you're away on holidays, if you can, just do something. It doesn't need to be much to maintain your training. Personally, one of the big things I've found is soreness in your legs. That's the toughest one to probably deal with.
Yeah.
So, if you're on holidays and you've got time to do some lunges and some squats and stuff like that, that really helps keep your legs, keep that capacity in your legs.
Yeah.
You still got to be smart about when you return. So just take it steady. Understand where you're at, I guess, is a good one. So ask yourself, before I started CrossFit, how much training had I done? And quantify that, I guess, you're really only going to give yourself a year on your training age if you were training seriously. So what I mean by that, it was probably at least 3 times a week doing CrossFit or weightlifting or something pretty substantial. If you've just been a avid walker and you walk 3 times a week, that doesn't count really, So specific training where you've been in a dedicated program for a certain period of time, maybe it's years, months, whatever. And then just have a think about like, okay, where was I when I started CrossFit? How long have I been doing CrossFit? If I've only been there 3 months and then I've had a month off, you're pretty much going to be starting again. Versus I've been there a decade, I'm having a week off, I'm probably going to do a little bit when I'm away. You probably don't need to change too much at all coming back.
Yeah.
But new athlete, more time off, less time under your belt, slower progress back into the classes to make sure you don't mess yourself up.
Yeah, cool. And what are your thoughts around mobility? Should that increase while you're returning, or should it always be quite high anyway?
Doing mobility, you mean?
Yeah.
Again, it depends on your baseline, I guess. Like how flexible are you? What was your mobility like when you were in those formative years? Did you do gymnastics, or did you play footy and you didn't?
I feel like we all wish
go
we
below
did
parallel
gymnastics.
in squats. Yeah. I certainly do.
Yeah.
It just depends. I don't think you really need to change the focus of mobility. I think it is what it is.
Yeah.
If you're really working hard to improve your mobility and then you stop working hard on improving your mobility, then you're going to go backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, however long you stop for, the further back you're going to slide.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, goes same for your fitness.
Yeah.
If you're someone that struggles with aerobic capacity and holding that top end level of conditioning, then as soon as you stop, you're gonna take massive drops back week after week after week after week until you're back to your base level, which might be quite low. Same thing for your strength. If you struggle to maintain your strength, it might take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get back, or even months to get that strength back, depending how long you've had off. So it really just does depend.
Yeah. I think there's probably quite a lot of people who would benefit from some stretching and mobility, but they might not know how to approach that. Is there any sort of app or tools that you use personally?
Yeah, so I've used ROMWOD over the years, but I found I now use an app called GoWOD.
Okay.
And it's really so I don't have to think about it.
Yep.
We've done all the mobility here, post-class, post-workout, in the classes. All of those things we do, those stretches, they're all based around stretching and improving your mobility and things like that. But I just don't want to think about it, if I'm being brutally honest. And it's easier just to watch a video, follow along, and away you go. And it's pretty good.
And how long do you put aside for that?
22 minutes.
Okay.
To be specific.
Very specific.
Because that's one of the options on the thing. It's like I think it's like 8, 15 and 22 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so I picked the 22.
So you just download the app.
It costs. You got to pay
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, I'm guessing 15 US a month, something like that. But it's pretty beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Again, it depends what you want to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're doing 4 CrossFit classes a week for general physical preparedness and just trying to stay healthy, and you've got a bit of an idea with stretching and you do a bit and you recover a bit, cool.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do 2 hours of training with heavy lifting, back squats, a couple of conditioning workouts, then you need to up the ante on the mobility as well.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Love that. Awesome. Is there anything else you wish to chat about on that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I think that's
we've
about
covered
it. Yeah. Again, I know we've said it 10 times probably already. Just ask the coaches, come back in. Never be afraid to come back in and start. I guess one of the other things is people worry about, I used to be ... I'm not that fit anymore because I've had this time off. I'm worried about going back in and people looking at me and thinking, what's happened, or I've gained weight, or, all of those sorts of mental things. Most people, this is going to sound really bad, most people care more about themselves than everyone else. So, don't feel like you're letting anyone down or there's any expectation on you. We're here to help, and we want to see everyone be successful and as healthy as they can be. So, and I think most people are pretty accommodating and understand that. And I think we've got an amazing community, and I don't think really anyone feels like that when someone comes back in, and they just be supportive. So, I know it can be tough, but yeah, you'll be fine. Just come back in. And
we'd rather see
you're
you
in the
back
right
in
spot.
here than to let that stop you altogether.
Absolutely.
Yeah, neat. So I guess as just a quick end note, just to update everybody, we did send out an email about this, but while we're talking about extended pauses, we can definitely pause anybody's membership to the frequency of your payments. So if you pay weekly, we can give you a free pause for a week. If you pay fortnightly, you get a free 2-week pause. Beyond that, it's just the $3 Fitbox fee that gets passed on to you. And then if you did take some longer time away than perhaps you thought, and your membership is sort of cancelled temporarily, you will be returning back to our current rates. So we just want to throw that out there. If you have any questions, please come chat to me, and I'm happy to help you out with that.
Cool.
And that sort of might lead into a little bit... Strangely, in my head, it leads into our next podcast topic, which is us chatting about putting value and prices on time and stuff like that.
Perfect.
So we're going to dig into that next week.
Awesome.
Okay.
All
Thanks
right.
for your time.
That's right. Thanks, Leah.
We'll see you next week.
Done.